We're talking tight ends today, Gojo, and you kind of have a tight end. I feel like these sunglasses make me look silly. But that's how this tight end class makes me feel. It makes me feel silly. It's a very unusual tight end class for the 2024 NFL Draft, and we're going to get into it today. Starting with number 10, Tanner McLachlan out of Arizona, coming in at 6'5", 240 pounds. He was a zero-star recruit. I think a big part of that was he was in Canada. I don't know what the school system looks like in Canada, but he went to Lethbridge Collegiate Institute, played wide receiver there, and he ends up walking on at Southern Utah, where he played for 4 seasons and decided to transfer after the 2021 season. He was actually recovering from an ACL injury, and he decides to walk on at Arizona and ends up getting a scholarship in his first year. Was a starter for 12 games this past year, and honestly, not pretty darn good. He had 530 yards, 11 forced missed tackles. Is kind of really good. And this dude just has experience all over, like from wide receiver to slot to inline. Though you're gonna look at his lack of mass there at 6'5", 240. Be like, yeah, probably needs to add a little bit more mass if he's gonna have a better anchor as a run blocker. He can definitely add mass. He's got the frame to do so. It's just 6-year senior and he's only been able to get up to 240. But I mean, he was a wide receiver entering college, so I'm not going to say that's out of the realm of possibility for him. But he's a relatively good athlete. He covers a lot of ground with long strides. I see him being just a nightmare up the seams and might have a little like F tight end flexibility. I don't know if he's someone you could have playing fullback though, or H-back, because he often likes to dip and duck his head into contact or into blocks, which, I mean, it'll just get you in trouble. I mean, you don't see what you're aiming for. You're not going to get clean contact. You're not, or you may just whiff altogether. But I got a mid-day 3 grade on him right now. On to number 9, I got AJ Barner out of Michigan, coming in at 6'6", 251 pounds. This might be the best blocking tight end in the entire class. He's got a really good build, good height, good weight. Combines that with long arms, and he's actually a really good athlete. And it kind of surprises me that he just hasn't become a decent enough receiving threat. Whether it was his first 3 years at Indiana, he spent his last year obviously here at Michigan, but he only put up 249 yards this past season. And a lot of that came in one game against Michigan, where he had 8 receptions for 99 yards and a touchdown. So, this whole season, he only had one game that eclipsed 26 receiving yards. So obviously, he needs to brush up as a receiver. Needs a little more polish in that area, because it's wild. Because he's a really good athlete, and I fully think he's capable of that. But as of right now, it's just a big question mark. I mean, you're just looking at him like, well, he's a good blocker and actually a really good special team player. So it's like he's got this high floor as just a general football player. So it's gonna be interesting. I think he's like an immediate contributor, which I think could get him in like the 5th round. He's gonna be at the Senior Bowl, so actually I'm pretty excited to see what he can do, see what he does in the receiving drills. Number 8, Theo Johnson out of Penn State, coming in at 6'6", 264 pounds. And the boy is big. He's got tight end size, but he's also a freaking great athlete. Like, really good athlete. He just flies all over the place, moves exceptionally well, shows quick feet as a route runner. He's very slick out of his breaks and can create separation. It's just he hasn't been productive. He doesn't have the production to warrant, yeah, you got all this athletic ability, but you haven't really done much. I mean, he's like a crazy red zone threat. 7 touchdowns this past season. Only had 341 yards, though. But he just screams mismatch nightmare. A guy that can go earlier than this 5th round grade that I have on him, with a strong Senior Bowl, just a strong offseason draft process. So he's definitely going to be an interesting guy to watch. He was a 4-year player there at Penn State. Number 7, Jaheim Bell out of Florida State. Jaheim Bell was a 3-star recruit out of the 2020 class. Initially went to South Carolina, coming in at 6'3", 239. And it was pretty interesting. So 2021 was kind of the breakout season for him, where he was playing alongside Nick Muse. If you probably know Nick Muse now, he was former William & Mary tight end, transferred to South Carolina, split time here with Bell, and I think he's with the Vikings now. I'm not positive. Don't quote me. I know he's in the NFL, though. I kind of liked him as like a tight end 3. But like Bell, like split time with him, but at the end of the year, kind of emerged as the big receiving threat. At the end of the year, in their last game, he went for 5 receptions for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns against North Carolina. And then in 2022, he just was kind of used all over the place. Like he even was a big like halfback. He was a halfback for like 2 or 3 games. He had like 74 carries for 257 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2022. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to go be a winner somewhere else. And he goes to Florida State, hoping for a shot at the Natty. Quite frankly, they probably should have had that shot, but that's neither here or there. But he ends up being a second-team All-ACC, opted out of the bowl, but he had 9 starts on the season. You look at him and his frame, and it's just like you can't use him as a true tight end. Like, he's a wonderful receiver. He really is. He has some of the best hands in this class, 5.2% drop rate over the course of his career. He tracks the ball well in air. He shows good coordination with his eyes and his hands, being able to high point the football. He's got some ludicrous catches on tape. And he's just a fluid mover. And just I love the speed. I love the athleticism. And he's a guy that can definitely carry defensive backs to the end zone, and he has that mean streak as a ball carrier. He had 11 forced missed tackles back in 2022. This past year, he had 12 forced missed tackles, and he's actually a really good downhill blocker because he's a guy that has played a little bit of fullback, H-back. It's just he's this awkward size where he's a tweener. He's too small to be like a traditional inline tight end. He's just got he's more of like an H-back just because I don't think he has that power as a blocker. And he's got short arms. I talk about the good hand-eye coordination, but he's also a guy that's not going to really create. He has to create mismatches with his athleticism. He's not going to be a mismatch at the catch point necessarily. So you kind of think like a Chig Okonkwo, but I was actually a bigger fan of Chig coming out of the what had that been, the 2022 draft. But another guy that I think will be at the Senior Bowl. Yes, he will. So that's going to be fun. But just in case you didn't know, I have a draft guide if you want to know more on these prospects. But don't just take it from me. Take it from me. Listen, I know you love the NFL draft as much as I do, and you're going to want a nice hefty watch list of players during this college football season. Well, go ahead, check out my draft guide. You can purchase it for only $30 by Venmoing or PayPaling me. Links in the description. It's a one-time payment and you get it for this whole draft cycle and forever and always. Technically, it's a Google spreadsheet. So send me your email when you send the payment. I'll get you hooked up. You will see my current prospect rankings and big board, my full evals. And guess what? It updates throughout the whole draft cycle. So it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. Number 6, Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State, coming in at 6'4", 245 pounds. He was a 0-star recruit from the 2020 class, played wide receiver, tight end, and defensive end. Also played baseball, golf, tennis, track, and hockey in high school. Holy moly, man, dude's just an athlete. His cousin Ashley played volleyball at Northern Iowa, and his cousin, Zach Hammies, was drafted by the LA Dodgers. So that's kind of cool. Initially, he committed to South Dakota before decommitted and decided to walk on at Kansas State. Redshirted that first year, but immediately started, like in 2021, was like, oh, maybe this is the future at tight end for us. And by 2022, he was the starter. He made first team All Big 12. And then in 2023, he was a third team All-American. He's a solid athlete. He really is. He's kind of a fluid mover. He attacks the stem pretty well. He just shows a good, like, maintains good speed throughout his route. And he can, like, create separation at, like, the top of routes and whatnot. But I wouldn't say he's, like, the fastest athlete in this class at the tight end position. I wouldn't say he's, like, fast. I just think he's smooth. I think he's probably above average when it comes to the athleticism at the position. But he plays with grit, man. He really does. And he is a punisher as a ball carrier, 7 forced missed tackles in 2022. That number jumped to 14 missed tackles this past season. And he's pretty good at the jump ball. If you go back to 2022, 66.7% at the contested catch. Unfortunately, that number was down to 35.7%. So, but you know, I mean, still, that's not like a bad number at all, but you know he can contest these catches. You know he can do it. He lined up everywhere for the Wildcats, whether it was in line, in the slot, in the backfield, even out wide. He had a few snaps out there the last 2 seasons. Very willing blocker, isn't afraid to put his nose in the action, sets a low base, and I think he uses relatively good technique. However, does struggle with drops. This past year, the hands were much better, 4% drop rate, but you go back to 2022, 11.4. I think this year he got a bit better at making catches away from his body. So you saw him get a little more comfortable with that. But as a blocker, he probably doesn't take the best angles to properly, like, seal up lanes and whatnot. He's a guy that likes to go for the kill shot. Like, he just looks like a solid tight end too. You look at him, he's like, yes, this is a guy that I really like as, like, my tight end too. Maybe not the main course, but I think he can grow into that. But right now, 5th round grade, another guy that could really flash at the Senior Bowl this weekend. And then at number 5, I got Johnny Wilson. That's right. You're like, what? The receiver? Yes, the receiver. This guy is a freaking burrito and pasta bowl away from being a tight end. 6'7", 237. And I honestly think his skill set probably it just better works out as him being a move into the tight end position. Formerly a 4-star recruit from the 2020 class, started his career at Arizona, but he eventually transfers to Florida State for more playing time. 2022, he was a second team All ACC, and then this year he started 10 games, did miss 3 games with an undisclosed injury, but his numbers weren't nearly as big as they were back in 2022. But the dude is huge. At his size, he is hard to bring down. He just runs through tackles. He had 9 forced missed tackles this past season, and he's actually pretty darn good at the contested catch. This year, the number was down a little bit, but it was at 40%. That's not a bad number by any means. That's actually pretty good. But the year before, it was 52.2%. And it's just, I feel like he could take the Darren Waller path when it comes to making the move from receiver to tight end. I really, really think he can. Because he is a guy that I think stacks pretty darn well. And I mean, he's a really good athlete, really good straight line athlete. He's very much a one-cut route runner. And I think that just works better at tight end for him, where he could get maybe freer releases. Because I do kind of worry, can he separate? Like, he could do good on a very, like, simplistic route, but, like, I don't know, man. I just have he's already a plus blocker as is. I think he could just move that to the inside or even have him work as a big slot. Because, like, separation just isn't his game. He has struggled with drops throughout his career, though this year the drop rate was pretty bad too. It was 10.9. The previous season it was 14.1. Someone that just kind of has alligator arms, you know, at the catch point. I don't feel like he's got the most natural ball skills sometimes, and he takes time to get going. Like, if he gets, like, I'd rather just not see him have to deal with press. Not to say he can't deal with press, but he doesn't really got, like, good burst or anything. Like, it's fine, it's solid, but, like, he does take a little bit of time to get going. So if he's already working through contact those early right there at the line of scrimmage, then I feel like they just kind of like it'll throw off the timing of routes, and it's just I think he just works better at tight end. I really do. I'm kind of curious if because he's been, I know for the Senior Bowl they've labeled him as a wide receiver. I want to see if he ends up working out with the tight ends. I'm going to be curious about that. But I got him with a fourth round grade, excuse me. And then at number 4, Cade Stover out of Ohio State, coming in at 6'4", 251, pretty good frame there. And initially he came to Ohio State as a defensive line defensive line recruit. And after his freshman year where he redshirted, they moved him to the tight end position, but he was like a mainstay on special teams until 2022, where he really kind of jumped on the scene. There were a lot of things he needed to work on, but still it was an impressive like debut season essentially for him as the starter at tight end. And he just improved on so many things in 2023. He truly did. The hands were so much better. Didn't have a single drop. He was so good at the contested catch point. He continued to be good at other areas he was good at in terms of like being hard to bring down. I mean, yeah, he absorbs a lot of contact well. You go back to 2022 where he broke 3 tackles in the Penn State game on his way to a touchdown. Just nasty. But he's not going to be like the shimmy guy. He's not going to have a lot of shake to him and whatnot. But he's got good build for the size. I think he's a relatively good athlete in a straight line and very much a vocal leader. And he gives a lot of love to Jonathan Cooper, former Ohio State Buckeye, now Denver Bronco, about just kind of being a role model for what he wanted to be as a leader for the team. I did say the ball skills have come around, but he does still, I don't think he's going to have ideal length. I don't know. We'll find out when the Senior Bowl measures everybody on Monday. There we go. He's not even at the Senior Bowl, so man, we're gonna have to wait till Combine. Interested. But yeah, no, I end up getting him as 3rd round because I just liked the development over from last year to this year. It's been really, really good. But let's go ahead and get into my top 3. But before that, what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So I'm gonna take the glasses off for the last 3 prospects. But go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below where we had that nice, beautiful football discourse. I will wrap up my prospect rankings later today with wide receiver, but I have all the other positions on the channel if you want to go check those out. Let's go ahead. Let's move on to number 3, Dallin Holker out of Colorado State, coming in at 6'5", 235. So you're like, oh, he's a little undersized, but he's got a long frame. So it's like, okay, he could probably put on some weight. But a very interesting road to get to Colorado State. He was a 3-star recruit from the 2018 class. He played basketball in high school, and he went to BYU from 2018 to 2022. He was actually had a good role his freshman year, but then he decides to go on the Mormon mission trip. He decides to go do that for the next 2 years. He returns and kind of has the same role where he's more of this like rotation guy in 2021. And then in 2022, he played in the first 3 games with 1 start before deciding to transfer. And a lot of that had to do with his wife. That's right, his wife. This man's a grown man. He's got a wife. He's taken. But his wife transferred from BYU to Colorado State for track. So he was like, okay, yeah, I'll go try to be on the football team. And he was, where he started 12 games and was a 2nd-team All-American. This was the breakout season for Holker. He's a very good athlete for the position. He has really good length. He's got very soft hands, 5.9% drop rate this past year, and just a very smooth route runner from head fakes to shoulder fakes. He's just shown a variety of ways to get open on routes, and I really like that. I like the speed. I like the burst. He's also very tough to bring down. 15 forced missed tackles this past season. And Colorado State literally used him everywhere. He primarily worked out of the slot, but he lined up a good deal in line as well as out wide. So he's got a little bit of versatility to him. But the question is, how will he be in line as a blocker? Because he does lack ideal bulk and play strength. So I think the way you kind of hide that is you make him kind of this move tight end. You use him in motion, have him get to the second level as a blocker. I think that's ideally how you want to utilize him. Think like Dalton Kincaid, how he's mainly really just been a slot for the Bills there. But I like that. I like that type of utilization for Holker at the next level. He is a good athlete, but I'm kind of interested to see what he will test out at. For me, I need to see that testing. I want to see it so bad. He is an older prospect who hasn't had a lot of playing time since freshman season. And I mean, yeah, like he didn't have the breakout year until this past year. So there are going to be a lot of questions there. He will be at the Shrine. So that hopefully he does well there. But you know who else is going to be at the Shrine? Jatavian Sanders. I don't know if he's going to participate. He might just be there for interviews and whatnot. But Jatavian Sanders is my number 2 tight end here at 6'4", 243 pounds. Former 5-star recruit from the 2021 class. Also played basketball back in high school. He became the full-time starter in 2022, where he made first team All Big 12. And then he was like, hey, that was so nice the first time. I'm going to do it a second time. He was a first team All Big 12 guy once again. He is a freak athlete, I think. I think he is going to test out really well. He has a legit speed. He is a legit field stretcher at the tight end position. And he consistently gets separation. And he does a good job, I think, running his routes well. He doesn't really round out his routes, but they're pretty crisp. And that's what I like. The drop rate back in 2022 was 6.9. It was 0 this past season. That's right. The man's got hands. He was 53.8% at the catch point. That's pretty solid. Does a good job just creating separation in tight coverage and using his hands discreetly to create that separation. And he's got good eye-hand coordination and will high point the football. I like that. He's tough as a pass catcher, plays with a good frame, and he can create after the catch. He's got plus stop-start ability for the position, but how he creates out of the catch is more make you miss. He doesn't really absorb contact that's just something you're going to notice. Like just 4 missed tackles this past season. I'd like to see him overpower defenders a bit more in coverage and not be knocked around a little bit on his routes. Like you saw it in the Oklahoma game where who's the Oklahoma guy? Billy Bowman? Is that his name? I don't know. He's going to be a prospect next year at the safety position. Just kind of bodied him. And I get it. That's Bowman's game. You know, he is this physical safety, but you're bigger than the dude, man. Play to your size. I'd like to see him be a bit better at the catch point and come down with more balls, because there was a case where I think this was actually in the it may have been the Kansas game, where he went up and just had the ball knocked out of his hands. I'd like to, you're first at the catch point. I want to see you be able to eat that contact while trying to come down with the catch a little bit better. And to be fair, as a blocker, he's fine. He lacks the play strength and really has to rely on his, just understanding of blocking angles and technique. But he is someone that can get knocked around. So if you're going to use him as a run blocker, you probably want to put him in motion or get him coming downhill. But at number 1, everyone and their mom knew it was coming. It's Brock Bowers out of Georgia, 6'4", 240. What is there really to say about Brock Bowers? He won the John Mackey Award for the 2nd year in a row. He has been the best tight end in the country since arriving at Georgia. He has 37 starts at Georgia past 3 years. He's a phenomenal athlete for the position. Basically feels like a jumbo receiver. Plays with Like he'll play a great deal in the slot. This year, that number was at 47.4%. But some of them they'll kick outside as well. Like he can just win as a receiver. He is that good. He accelerates at the top of his routes quickly, tracks the ball well, very sure hands. Though the contested catch rate was way down this year. So it's a little scary, but I mean, we've got 3 years of tape on him. I'm not too worried about it. I'm not. He's just a nightmare as a receiver to deal with. And being at Georgia, despite feeling a little undersized because he was playing at 230 in 2022, he was up to 240 this year. He is a better than you would expect blocker. Like he is a very solid blocker. And at Georgia, you kind of have to be if you're gonna stay on the field, and he was. Like legit, I don't really have many concerns with him. He is going to be 21 at the beginning of his rookie season, so if they feel like that 240 is too small, they could have him go up 5-10 pounds, and I think that's no problems asked. Like I have no worries about him. To me, he's like a guy I'd spend a top 10, top 5 pick on. He is that good, and may have ruined the rest of the tight end class just by how good he is. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do that YouTube thing. As always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.